Let me tell you something that might completely change how you think about losing weight after 60. For decades, the mainstream advice has been simple: burn more calories than you consume. And if you want to lose that stubborn belly fat, you need to hit the treadmill. We've been conditioned to believe that endless cardio sessions are the only key to unlocking a leaner waistline. Perhaps you did those endless treadmill sessions that left your knees aching. Or you followed some complicated meal plan that required ingredients you could not even pronounce. None of it worked long term. Your belly stayed stubbornly in place. But what if I told you that in a massive landmark study from the Johns Hopkins Division of Cardiology, which followed over 12,000 adults for nearly 2 decades, researchers found that people who spent hours doing cardio every week lost almost no belly fat compared to those who made one simple change to their diet. This finding shocked the entire medical community. The difference was staggering. We are talking about a 73% difference in visceral fat reduction between the cardio-focused group and the diet-focused group. Visceral fat is not the soft, pinchable fat just under your skin. It is the dangerous fat wrapped around your vital organs that doctors worry about most. It's the fat that fuels chronic inflammation, drives heart disease, and increases surgical risk. And here is the truly surprising, almost revolutionary part. The diet group spent 0 extra hours exercising. They just ate differently. These are not theories or guesses. These are proven protocols that surgeons now recommend to their patients before major operations. Why surgeons specifically? Because they need their patients to lose visceral fat quickly and safely. They cannot afford methods that do not work. Their patients' lives literally depend on the results. For people over 60, the traditional calories in, calories out model simply breaks down because it fails to account for the dramatic shifts in hormones and metabolism that come with age. Our insulin sensitivity declines, muscle mass erodes, and our body's internal fat-burning switches get stuck in the off position. Running on a treadmill does little to fix these underlying metabolic issues. Today, I am going to walk you through the 7 specific steps that target these root causes directly. When researchers at Johns Hopkins tested these steps together, participants lost an average of 4 inches from their waistline in just 30 days. Not 6 months, not a year, 30 days. This is a complete system for eliminating belly fat that does not require endless cardio sessions or calorie deprivation. We'll start with the steps that set the foundation and build up to the most powerful protocol of all. First, we establish the strategic meal timing to optimize your insulin response, which is crucial for seniors. Second, we will discuss the soluble fiber revolution, a simple nutritional addition that reduces visceral fat without any other dietary changes. Third, we address the hidden inflammatory foods that sabotage weight loss, even in seemingly healthy diets. Fourth, we will fix the protein distribution mistake that accelerates muscle loss and slows your metabolism. Fifth, we will introduce strategic carbohydrate cycling to restore the metabolic flexibility lost after 60. Sixth, we will activate adiponectin production, the master hormone that tells your body to burn stored fat. Finally, we will reveal step number 1, the single protocol responsible for nearly half of all the fat loss in the Johns Hopkins study, the surgeon-approved time-restricted eating protocol. Let's begin immediately with the critical error most people make when they try to eat healthy, which is a misunderstanding of timing. The foundational principle for senior fat loss starts not with what you eat, but with when you eat. This is step number 7, strategic meal timing windows. Research from the Salk Institute in California discovered something fascinating about our metabolism after 60. Our bodies process food very differently depending on the time of day we consume it. The exact same meal, eaten at 8 o'clock in the morning versus 8 o'clock at night, produces completely different hormonal responses. Here is the mechanism of harm. When you eat late in the evening, your insulin levels spike much higher than they would during daylight hours. A study published in Cell Metabolism found that insulin sensitivity, the ability of your cells to respond correctly to insulin, drops by nearly 40% after sunset in adults over 60. Why is this statistic so important? Because high insulin tells your body to store fat. It literally locks the door to your fat cells and throws away the key. You simply cannot burn what your body refuses to release. In a critical test, researchers tracked two groups eating identical calories and identical foods. The only difference was timing. Group 1 finished eating by 6 o'clock in the evening. Group 2 ate the same meals but finished at 10 o'clock p.m. After 12 weeks, the early eating group had lost 2.3 times more belly fat. Same food, same calories, just different timing. To master this foundational step, you must consume your last meal at least 3 hours before you go to sleep. For most people over 60, this means finishing dinner by 6 or 7 in the evening. This isn't just about weight loss, it also dramatically improves the quality of your sleep, as your body isn't busy digesting heavy food when it should be repairing and recovering. Furthermore, you must strategically shift your largest meal earlier in the day. Start with your heaviest meal at breakfast or lunch, when your metabolism runs hottest, then taper down to a lighter dinner. Think of it like putting the biggest logs on a fire in the morning when the flames burn brightest. You would not pile heavy wood on dying embers at night. This simple shift, step number 7, is the essential prerequisite for all the other steps to follow, maximizing your insulin sensitivity exactly when you need it most. The critical step that builds upon strategic meal timing, and the one that was responsible for nearly half of all the fat loss in the original Johns Hopkins investigation, is the time-restricted eating TRE 16-8 protocol. This is our step number 1, the protocol surgeons rely on. If you do nothing else, this is the one non-negotiable step that generates systemic, fast, visceral fat reduction. Time-restricted eating means consuming all your food within an 8-hour period and fasting for the remaining 16 hours, which includes your sleep time. But for people over 60, there is a specific, crucial way to do this that triples the effectiveness compared to how most people attempt it. The success is entirely dependent on aligning your eating window with your natural circadian rhythm. Let me explain the biological power of this 16-hour fast. When you refrain from eating, something truly remarkable happens in your body that cardio simply cannot replicate. First, your insulin levels drop to a baseline, which finally allows your fat cells to release their contents. Second, your body shifts into a state called autophagy, where it literally starts recycling old, damaged cells and using them for energy. Third, your human growth hormone levels surge by up to 500%. And a process called lipolysis accelerates, which means the direct breakdown of stored fat into usable fuel. The landmark study from Johns Hopkins Division of Cardiology tested this protocol specifically on adults over 60. They compared 3 groups over 12 weeks. Group 1 followed a standard calorie-restricted diet, eating throughout the day. Group 2 did time-restricted eating, but ate whenever they wanted within their window. Group 3 did time-restricted eating and specifically ate their first meal within 1 hour of waking and finished eating by early afternoon. The results were staggering. Group 1 lost an average of 4 pounds. Group 2 lost 7 pounds, but Group 3, the one with the correctly timed window, lost 14 pounds and reduced their waist circumference by 4.2 inches. All 3 groups had the same calorie intake. The only difference was the timing structure. Here is the critical detail that made Group 3 so successful. They aligned their eating window with their natural circadian rhythm. Cortisol, which is your stress hormone that promotes belly fat storage, peaks in the late afternoon and evening. By finishing eating before this cortisol spike, participants avoided the hormonal cascade that drives fat accumulation. To implement this correctly, follow the surgeon-approved method. Determine what time you typically wake up. Set your eating window to start 1 hour after waking. If you wake at 7 a.m., eat your first meal at 8 a.m. Count 8 hours forward for your eating window closure, which would be 4 p.m. in this example. Consume all your calories within that window, focusing your largest meals earlier in the window when your insulin sensitivity peaks. During the 16 fasting hours, you can drink water, black coffee, or unsweetened tea. These will not break your fast. The 16 hours might sound challenging at first, but most people adapt within 3 to 5 days. Your hunger hormones recalibrate quickly, and many people report feeling more energetic and mentally clear during fasting periods than they ever did eating constantly throughout the day. This protocol reduces visceral fat faster than any other dietary intervention found, which is why surgeons demand it before operations to ensure safer anesthesia, faster healing, and fewer complications. Building on the foundation of the 16 to 8 timing, our next essential step is for defending your metabolism against the natural, age-related decline, optimizing protein distribution and defeating the sarcopenia trap. This is step number 4. After the age of 60, most people fall into a catastrophic eating pattern that absolutely wrecks their metabolism and accelerates muscle loss. They eat almost no protein at breakfast, a moderate amount at lunch, and then load up at dinner. This habit is the silent destroyer of your fat-burning potential. Why does muscle matter so much for belly fat? Muscle tissue burns calories constantly, even while you sleep. Every pound of muscle on your body consumes about 50 calories daily just to maintain itself. This constant burn keeps your total metabolic rate high. The problem is that after 60, we naturally lose muscle mass at a rate of about 1% per year. This process, called sarcopenia, slows your metabolism and makes belly fat accumulation almost inevitable if you do not actively fight against it. You cannot expect to burn visceral fat if you are constantly losing the very tissue that burns the most calories. The key is not just consuming enough protein, but ensuring your body can use that protein effectively to stimulate muscle protein synthesis, the process of building and repairing muscle. This requires hitting a specific protein threshold at each meal. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition examined protein distribution in adults aged 65 and older. Those who ate at least 30 grams of protein at each meal maintained significantly more muscle mass than those who ate the same total protein but concentrated it at dinner. The muscle-preserving group also had 27% less visceral fat after 6 months. Same total protein intake, completely different results based purely on distribution. This proves that muscle synthesis is maximized only when protein intake hits this threshold 3 times a day. To optimize this step, you need a personalized target. To optimize this step, calculate your body weight in pounds and aim for that number in grams of protein daily, spread evenly across 3 meals. A person weighing 160 pounds would target about 53 grams per meal. This target will feel high to many, but it is necessary to override the anabolic resistance that comes with age. You require a higher protein signal to achieve the same muscle-building effect that a younger person would get from less. Here are practical, senior-friendly strategies for hitting 30 to 50 grams of high-quality protein at each meal. Stop having toast and cereal. Swap them for breakfast options that include eggs with smoked salmon, Greek yogurt with nuts, or a protein smoothie. Lunch might feature grilled chicken or fish with vegetables. Dinner could include lean beef, pork tenderloin, or seafood. The key is making protein the centerpiece of every meal, rather than an afterthought. By doing this, you maintain and even build muscle tissue, turning your body into an efficient, round-the-clock fat-burning machine. This is your active defense against a slowing metabolism and against the inevitable weight regain that plagues those who focus only on starvation or excessive cardio. Now we move to a critical dietary adjustment that works silently in your digestive system to block fat storage. The fiber revolution, focusing on soluble fiber intake. This is our step number 6, and it is a powerful tool because it was shown in research to reduce visceral fat without any other dietary changes. Most people confuse general fiber with the specific kind we need, soluble fiber. Regular, insoluble fiber is great for digestive movement, but soluble fiber performs a fundamentally different and far more important metabolic function. Soluble fiber forms a thick gel in your stomach that fundamentally changes how your body processes everything you eat afterward. It physically slows the rate at which food leaves your stomach, which means it dramatically slows the absorption of glucose into your bloodstream. This, in turn, minimizes the sharp insulin spikes that are so damaging to the senior metabolism. A landmark study from Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center tracked over 1,100 adults for 5 years. They found a dose-dependent relationship. For every 10-gram increase in soluble fiber intake, participants lost 3.7% of their visceral belly fat. That happened without any other dietary changes. But here is the part that makes this especially powerful for people over 60. As we age, our gut bacteria populations shift dramatically. We lose many of the beneficial species that help regulate weight. Soluble fiber acts as food for the good bacteria that remain. When these beneficial bacteria digest the fiber, they produce powerful compounds called short-chain fatty acids. These compounds travel directly to your liver and tell it to stop producing new fat. They also signal your brain that you are full, which naturally reduces how much you eat. You are not just eating fiber, you are creating a biological factory that manufactures fat-blocking, appetite-suppressing hormones. To maximize this step, you must aim for at least 25 grams of soluble fiber daily. The best sources of soluble fiber include oats, beans, lentils, apples, and flax seeds. Here's a simple, actionable protocol for incorporating 25 grams of soluble fiber into your day. Start your morning with a bowl of steel-cut oats topped with ground flaxseed. Add half a cup of beans to your lunch. Include an apple as your afternoon snack. The key is spreading your intake throughout the day rather than trying to get it all at once. Your gut bacteria work best with a steady supply. If you introduce too much at once, you may experience bloating, so start slowly and ramp up your intake over 2 weeks. But I must give you an honest warning here. All the timing tricks, all the fiber rules, all the eat this, not that, they only work if you actually know what is on your plate. And this is exactly where most people over 60 hit a wall. You sit down to what looks like a healthy meal and you feel proud of yourself. But are you really getting enough fiber to shrink that belly? Did that homemade soup quietly push you over your limit with extra potatoes or bread? That constant guessing is what slowly destroys progress even for the most disciplined people. This is why, as a health professional, I strongly recommend using a tracking tool like Cal-AI to eliminate the guesswork. It acts like having a nutrition assistant in your pocket that watches the details for you so you can focus on living your life. You take one picture of your plate, and the AI reads the food and estimates your portion size, showing you the exact calories, fiber, protein, carbs, and fats. No more squinting at tiny nutrition labels or typing how many calories in a cup of lentils into Google over and over. The AI recognizes the food and estimates portions automatically. Using a tool like this gives you the clarity you need to know, not hope, that you are hitting your 25 grams of fiber every day. Knowing your numbers is the difference between a guessing game and a winning strategy. We now address a hidden, pervasive problem that sabotages weight loss in almost everyone over 60, without them even knowing it. Eliminating hidden inflammatory foods. This is our step number 5, and it requires removing specific foods that trigger chronic, silent inflammation in your body. I am not talking about obvious junk food here. I'm talking about foods that seem healthy, but quietly destroy your ability to burn belly fat. Inflammation and belly fat have a vicious relationship. Fat cells, especially visceral fat cells, produce inflammatory chemicals called cytokines. These cytokines then cause your body to store even more fat. It becomes the self-perpetuating cycle that cardio cannot touch. You can run on a treadmill for an hour every day, but if inflammation keeps signaling your body to hold on to fat, you will never make progress. The primary goal of this step is to break that vicious cycle. Researchers at the University of South Carolina tested this theory by having participants eliminate 4 specific food categories for just 3 weeks. The results stunned even the researchers. Inflammatory markers dropped by 41%. Belly circumference decreased by an average of 1.4 inches. And, critically for seniors, participants reported having more energy than they had felt in years. What were these 4 categories of hidden inflammatory foods? They were refined seed oils like soybean and corn oil, added sugars in processed foods, refined grains like white bread and pasta, and conventional dairy products. First, refined seed oils. This is perhaps the biggest modern culprit. Oils like soybean and corn oil are highly inflammatory. Seed oils hide in almost everything, from salad dressings to roasted nuts to restaurant meals. You must replace them with stable, healthy fats like olive oil, avocado oil, or butter. Second, added sugars in processed foods. This goes beyond what you put in your coffee. Check labels for added sugars in processed foods. Third, refined grains. These include white bread and pasta. They have been stripped of their fiber and nutrients, causing blood sugar spikes. Swap refined grains for whole grain alternatives, or better yet, skip grains entirely for a few weeks and see how you feel. Fourth, conventional dairy products. For many older adults, standard conventional dairy products can be inflammatory. Choose fermented dairy like yogurt or kefir instead of regular milk and cheese. To implement this step, you must become a ruthless label reader. If you see soybean oil as the second ingredient, put the product back. These small switches reduce the inflammatory load on your body and allow your natural fat-burning mechanisms to finally function properly. Think of inflammation as rust on a machine. You can put the best fuel in, protein, fiber, but if the parts are seized, nothing will work. Eliminating these hidden inflammatory foods is the process of removing the rust. It unlocks the potential of all the other steps we have discussed. We are now moving into the most strategic hormonal steps, beginning with our step number 2, activating adiponectin production. This is critical because adiponectin is a hormone that most diets completely ignore. You have probably never heard of adiponectin, but researchers consider it the master switch for belly fat burning. Adiponectin literally tells your fat cells to release their contents and instructs your muscles to burn that fat for energy. People with high adiponectin levels almost never develop dangerous belly fat, regardless of their other habits. Here is the significant problem for seniors. Adiponectin levels drop naturally as we age, and paradoxically, the more belly fat you carry, the less adiponectin your body produces. This creates another vicious cycle, where existing fat causes hormonal changes that lead to more fat accumulation. To break this cycle, we must intentionally consume foods that force adiponectin production back up. Research from Tufts University identified magnesium-rich foods as the most powerful adiponectin boosters. Here is your triple threat protocol to maximize this crucial fat-burning hormone. Participants who increased magnesium intake by just 100 milligrams daily raised their adiponectin levels by 23% within 4 weeks. The best sources are a handful of pumpkin seeds or almonds, which are simple, easy additions to your breakfast or an approved snack within your 8-hour window. Second, other studies found that omega-3 fatty acids from fish oil increased adiponectin by up to 30%. To achieve this level of boost, you should consume fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, or sardines at least 3 times weekly. If you are not a fish eater, a high-quality, third-party tested fish oil supplement may be necessary. Third, cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil consumption correlated with a 19% increase. Use olive oil liberally on salads and vegetables at every opportunity. The compounds in high-quality olive oil are potent anti-inflammatories and hormonal signaling agents. For those who need an occasional indulgence, consider adding dark chocolate with at least 70% cacao as an occasional treat, since it also boosts adiponectin significantly. The combination of these specific foods and nutrients creates a hormonal environment where belly fat simply cannot persist. By layering this step on top of the 16-8 timing and the high protein intake, you are not just restricting calories. You are biologically instructing your body to change its fundamental fat storage behavior. You are making your internal environment actively hostile to visceral fat. This is the difference between temporary weight loss and a permanent metabolic reset. Our next high-impact step is step number 3, implementing strategic carbohydrate cycling. This step is specifically designed for the older adult metabolism and is necessary to maintain metabolic flexibility without crashing energy or thyroid function. Many fad diets for weight loss after 60 advocate for eliminating all carbohydrates entirely. That extreme approach backfires for older adults because it crashes thyroid function and tanks energy levels, making the whole process unsustainable. The solution lies in strategic cycling, not total elimination. The science behind this comes from research on metabolic flexibility. This term describes your body's ability to switch seamlessly between burning carbohydrates, sugar, and burning fat stored energy for fuel. Younger people can make this switch easily, but after 60, many people lose this flexibility. Their bodies become stuck in carbohydrate burning mode and essentially forget how to access stored fat. Carbohydrate cycling is the tool we use to retrain that stubborn, aged metabolism. Scientists at the University of Alabama tested a cycling protocol on adults averaging 64 years old. Participants ate moderate carbohydrates for 2 days, then lower carbohydrates for 1 day, repeating this pattern continuously. After 8 weeks, their metabolic flexibility improved by 62%. More importantly, they lost an average of 3.8 inches from their waist. The cycling pattern retrained their metabolism to burn fat efficiently, while preventing the hormonal crashes that pure low-carb diets cause. Here is your practical protocol for implementing this strategic cycle. On your moderate days, you should eat around 125 grams of carbohydrates. On your low days, you should aim for around 50 grams. On the moderate days, you refill your muscle glycogen stores and support healthy thyroid function. On the low-carb day, the reduced intake forces your body to switch over and access stored body fat for fuel, thus restoring metabolic flexibility. On all days, the source of your carbohydrates is paramount. Focus your carbohydrates around your most active time of day. Get them from vegetables, fruits, and whole food sources rather than processed options. A critical adjustment for the low-carb day. To maintain energy and satiety, you must increase your healthy fat intake. Avocados, nuts, olive oil, and fatty fish work perfectly as fat sources. The alternating pattern keeps your metabolism guessing and prevents the adaptation that causes plateaus. When you eat the same way every day, your body eventually adapts, slows down, and stops responding. This strategic cycling is the mechanism that keeps your body constantly optimizing itself for fat usage, ensuring your visceral fat loss continues without stalling. This is an advanced strategy, but it is one of the most powerful tools for maintaining long-term success after you have established the basic 16-8 timing. We have covered 6 potent, evidence-based steps, culminating in the time-restricted eating, TRE, 16-8 protocol as the foundation. Now, we finalize our blueprint by emphasizing the practical application and the often overlooked mental shift required for success. This final section, step number 7, is the practical blueprint, the first 72 hours and beyond. The biggest mistake people make when starting a new health protocol is trying to implement everything perfectly on day 1. This leads to burnout and failure. The complete system involves 7 steps that build on the others to create a powerful transformation. You must start with the easiest step first and master it before adding the next. Your action protocol for the first month. For week 1, your focus is on strategic meal timing, step 7, and soluble fiber, step 6. Commit to finishing your last meal at least 3 hours before you go to sleep. For most people over 60, that means finishing dinner by 6 or 7 in the evening. Master this timing for 7 days. Simultaneously, intentionally add sources of soluble fiber, such as starting your morning with a bowl of steel-cut oats topped with ground flaxseed, and adding half a cup of beans to your lunch. You are just targeting the 25-gram goal of soluble fiber daily. You are not restricting anything else yet. Timing corrects insulin response, and fiber starts suppressing fat production via chemical signals. These are simple additions that yield immediate metabolic benefits. For week 2, add the 16-8 protocol, step 1, and protein distribution, step 4. Shift your eating window to align with your wake time. For example, if you wake at 7 o'clock in the morning, eat your first meal at 8 o'clock and close your window at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. By this point, finishing at 7 p.m. will feel easy, making the jump to an earlier closing time manageable. Simultaneously, actively hit the 30-gram minimum protein threshold at each meal. Start using a tracking app if necessary to ensure you hit your total daily protein goal. This defends against sarcopenia. For week 3, the focus shifts to eliminating inflammatory foods, step 5, and boosting adiponectin, step 2. Remove the 4 hidden culprits: refined seed oils, added sugars and processed foods, refined grains, and conventional dairy products. Replace them with olive oil, avocado oil, or butter, whole grain alternatives, and fermented dairy like yogurt or kefir. Simultaneously, intentionally incorporate adiponectin boosters like a handful of magnesium-rich pumpkin seeds or almonds daily, and consuming fatty fish like salmon or mackerel at least 3 times this week. For week 4, the final layer is strategic carb cycling, step 3. After 3 weeks of metabolic preparation, your body is ready for this advanced step. Implement the 2-to-1 cycle, alternating 2 moderate carb days with 1 low carb day to maximize metabolic flexibility and smash any plateau you may have hit. Remember what the research clearly shows. Traditional cardio approaches fail for people over 60 because they do not address the underlying hormonal and metabolic issues that cause belly fat in the first place. These dietary protocols target those root causes directly. The power is in the synergy. Each step enhances the power of the others. The 16 hours of fasting might sound daunting, but the mental clarity and increased energy reported by many people are often the most surprising benefits. This system gives you control back, not through struggle, but through strategic hormonal alignment. Start with step 7, strategic meal timing, and master it for a week before adding step 6. Continue adding steps as each one becomes automatic. The greatest tragedy in health is believing that decline is inevitable simply because of age. The science we have reviewed today proves that is simply not true. Your body is not broken. It is simply responding to outdated instructions and a misplaced focus on exercise over nutrition. You now have the full 7-step blueprint used in clinical settings to reset the hormonal and metabolic switches that govern visceral fat. These protocols are the difference between spending years struggling on the treadmill and seeing profound, measurable change in a single month. Take this knowledge, start with 1 step today, and recognize that you hold the power to dictate the vitality of your later years.